Please be seated. Oh, what a beautiful morning it is. This weather has been amazing. I'm getting spoiled. I don't know about you, but I don't want to get to the point where I turn my heat on now. So in today's gospel, Jesus is recorded as saying, "Give to God the things that are God's." As I hear this, I keep wondering, what are the things that are God's? Isn't everything God's? What's Jesus trying to tell us? So the Pharisees really thought hard to come up with this plot. They had a lot of different players involved. They used two very opposite groups. The Herodians, who were descendants of Herod the Great and part of the ruling class, and Jesus' disciples. You really couldn't get more polar opposites together in one gathering. In order to make it appear like an innocent question, the Pharisees convinced the disciples to ask their teacher, "Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor?" The Pharisees believed they put Jesus into a corner by asking him this yes or no answer. The Pharisees believed that he would probably say it was against Jewish law to pay the taxes to the emperor, because according to Jewish law, this was considered idolatry. The type of tax paid with a denarius was called a poll tax. And a poll tax went directly to the emperor, unlike other taxes. The Romans considered their emperor to be their god. Not only would they be paying money to a god figure, but they would also be using something that's considered a graven image. See, the denarius was equal to a day's pay and had the image of the emperor engraved on the coin. And it also had the words that declared the emperor to be the descendant of the divine and a high priest. By paying the poll tax, the Jews felt they were being forced to worship the emperor, which was considered blasphemy. So the Pharisees thought for sure they had Jesus trapped. If Jesus said it was okay to pay the tax, then his disciples would be upset for going against Jewish law. And if Jesus said, no, it's not okay to pay the tax, then the Herodians would have had him arrested and immediately executed. Either way, the Pharisees believed they would win by either having Jesus killed or by turning his followers away from him. Now, at the time the Gospels were written, there had already been a number of Jewish revolts against paying taxes. The largest revolt actually led to the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. So this question about paying taxes was so important that all of the Gospels, with the exception of John, included this story. After looking at the coin, Jesus responds, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and God the things that are God's." Not the answer the Herodians, the Pharisees, or even the disciples expected. Jesus tells them that it's okay to pay the tax. He's telling them it's okay to go against Jewish law. Or is he? If he only said give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, the answer would be yes. That would be breaking Jewish law. But because he also said, give to God the things that are God's, he's declaring that it's possible to pay the tax without going against Jewish law, as long as you give to God what is God's. I believe this one sentence in the Gospels was essential for this new Christian group that is followers of Jesus to survive as a culture. Historically, Jews had to figure out how to worship their God while being ruled by other powers. These new Jewish followers of Jesus needed to be able to do the same thing. The Jews believed that when they paid the tax, they were being forced to worship the emperor. But can someone be forced to worship something they don't believe in? When we worship with our heart, our minds, and our bodies, working together like the Trinity. Worship doesn't happen if only the mind and the body are doing something like paying a tax. If the heart's not involved, it's not worship. It's not giving to God what's God's. Jesus saw that the hearts of the Pharisees had changed as they became enamored with wealth and power and more involved with the ruling class. He believed that the Pharisees had stopped giving to God what is God's. Jesus' answer was a direct assault to their hardened hearts. No matter what, no one can force someone's heart to change. Jesus was telling his disciples to do what is expected of them to do under Roman rule. But this does not mean they are going against God, as long as they hold in their hearts their belief. No one can force them to believe that the emperor is God, and no one can take away their belief in their God, no matter what they are physically forced to do. They will always be able to give God what is God's, because that is what comes from the heart. The composer David Haas describes this beautifully in his refrain from the hymn Deep Within, which we sang last week at the 11:15. Deep within I will plant my law, not on stone, but in your heart. I find it so comforting knowing that my faith, my beliefs, are held in a sacred space within me, especially during these trying times. We all carry the divine in our hearts, as Paul tells us over and over again in his letters. When we give to God what is God's, it's what we carry on our hearts. It's not something physical. It's not even something in our thoughts. It's our deep within divine connection with God. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Gandhi all understood this. No matter what was happening in society, their faith was unwavering. So in these trying times, remember, when our faith is strong, we are giving God what is God's, no matter what's happening around us. Amen.
On page 7. We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one being with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven. By the power of the Holy Spirit, he became incarnate for the Virgin Mary, and was made man. For our sake he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried. On the third day he rose again, in accordance with the Scriptures. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, the proceeds from the Father, with the Father and the Son, who worshipped and glorified. He has spoken through the prophets. We believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic Church.